All right, folks, welcome back to Hollywood Latest News. I'm Luke Harrison, and today we're diving into one of the most mind-bending, obsessive, and rewatch-worthy films in modern cinema history, The Prestige, directed by Christopher Nolan, released back in 2006. A psychological thriller, a mystery, a character study, and a film about obsession all wrapped into one. Honestly, when people ask me what movie defines Nolan's brilliance before he was officially Christopher Nolan, the blockbuster guy, this is the one I point to. And let me tell you why I picked this movie today. Because every single time I revisit it, I find something new. A look, a line, a hidden detail that I missed the first 10 times. And that's exactly what makes The Prestige so incredible. And of course, yes, we're going to break down the ending later. That ending deserves its own spotlight. But before we get there, we need to walk through this film, not scene by scene, but by its most jaw-dropping moments, the iconic dialogues, the hidden clues, and the way Nolan plays with us, the audience, just like a magician with his audience. So let's get right into it. The film kicks off with this hypnotic narration about the 3 acts of a magic trick: the pledge, the turn, and the prestige. Already Nolan is laying it out for us. This movie itself is a magic trick. I remember the first time I heard that narration, I thought, oh, that's clever. But rewatching it, I realized, oh no, Nolan is literally telling us exactly how the movie works. He's pledging something simple, turning it into something extraordinary, and then giving us that final prestige, the twist, the revelation. And still, we fall for it. Every single time. Now let's talk about Robert Angier, played by Hugh Jackman. And oh man, Hugh Jackman in this film is on another level. This isn't Wolverine. This is a man consumed by loss, obsession, and revenge. The rivalry between Angier and Alfred Borden, played by Christian Bale, is one of the most intense rivalries ever put on screen. You feel it in your bones. And it all starts with that tragic death. Angier's wife, Julia, drowning during a stage trick gone wrong. That scene is brutal. I don't care how many times you've seen it. It hits hard every time. What really gets me is the moment Angier pulls her up, and Borden is just standing there, helpless. And then Angier screams at him, "What knot did you tie?" Man, chills. That one line becomes the fuel for the entire movie. That's not just a question, it's a curse. Every time Angier says it, you feel the weight of grief and hatred in his voice. And of course, Borden's response, his refusal, or maybe inability, to answer, makes you wonder, did he tie the Langford double? Did he not? Or is this part of something bigger? From that moment on, you know we're in for a ride. What's fascinating is that Nolan makes us complicit in this rivalry. Who do you root for? At first, you feel Angier's pain, right? He lost his wife. He wants answers. But then you see his obsession, his cruelty, his willingness to destroy others for revenge, and you start thinking, maybe Borden isn't so bad. But then again, Borden himself is cagey, reckless, and at times, downright cold. The genius of this film is that it doesn't give us a clear hero or villain. They're both flawed, both brilliant, and both dangerous. And speaking of brilliance, let's talk about one of my absolute favorite scenes in the entire movie, the transported man. Borden steps onto the stage, walks into one wardrobe, disappears, and comes out of another across the stage in an instant. Angier watches this, and you can literally see the gears in his head grinding, sparks flying. He's floored. I was floored. The first time I saw that trick, I thought, okay, Nolan's about to explain some clever camera trick or sleight of hand. Nope. Instead, Nolan does something even more devious. He lets Angier and us stew in obsession. How did Borden do it? Was it a double? A trapdoor? Some new science? What makes this scene so genius is Angier's reaction afterward. He storms out, furious, muttering, he uses a double. And Cutter, played by Michael Caine, oh, Michael Caine is the voice of reason in this entire movie. He tells him straight, it's a double. Cutter knows. He sees the simplicity of the trick. But Angier refuses to believe something so simple. He needs the answer to be bigger, grander, more impossible. And that right there is the core of Angier's character. He's not just chasing revenge, he's chasing spectacle. He wants the audience to be amazed, not just fooled. And the tragedy is that need destroys him. Let me pause here for a second because I gotta say, this is the beauty of Nolan's storytelling. The movie itself is performing a transported man on us. It shows us something simple, but convinces us it has to be more complicated. And we fall for it, just like Angier does. Every time I rewatch, I laugh at myself thinking, Luke, you knew it was simple, but you wanted it to be extraordinary. And that's exactly what Nolan is playing with. Now, one of the most brutal moments for me, and one that really cemented how far Angier was willing to go, was when he sabotages Borden's bullet catch trick. Oh man, what a scene that was. It's tense, it's dangerous, and when Angier slips the bullet into the gun, you know something bad is about to happen. And sure enough, Borden gets shot in the hand. I remember the first time watching, I literally shouted at the screen, "Dude, that's insane!" That scene isn't just shocking, it's deeply personal. It's Angier saying, "I don't just want to beat you on stage, I want to hurt you." And Bale's reaction, oh, Christian Bale nailed it. The look of shock, the rage, the raw pain. It makes you realize these men aren't just rivals. They're destroying each other's lives piece by piece. And Cutter, again standing there horrified, is like the audience's moral compass, reminding us that both these men are crossing lines. Then, we get into Angier's attempt at his own transported man. And let's be honest, it's kind of pathetic at first. He uses an actor double, played hilariously by a drunken rowdy fellow. And yeah, it works, but not in the way Angier wants. He hides under the stage while the double basks in the applause. You can see the bitterness on Angier's face. Oh, that scene hits hard. Because applause is what he craves, not the trick itself. He wants recognition, validation, worship. And when the double gets the love from the crowd, Angier is humiliated. And that right there is such a perfect reflection of ego and vanity. It's not enough to pull off the trick. Angier needs to be the prestige. He can't stand the idea that someone else, even a double, is stealing the moment. And I remember thinking, wow, this guy is doomed. He's so blinded by ego that he'll never be satisfied. Now here's one of those moments where the movie gives us a clue and dares us to notice. Borden's life. His wife Sarah starts questioning him about his moods. Some days he loves her, some days he doesn't. And there's that heartbreaking line when she says, "Some days you mean it, some days you don't." On a first watch, you just think, man, Borden's a complicated dude. But on a rewatch, oh boy, it hits you like a truck, because that's the twist staring us right in the face. He is two different people. He's literally two men, alternating lives, alternating loves. That line is pure foreshadowing, and it blows my mind every single time. And you know what's crazy? Nolan doesn't hide it. The clues are all there. Fallon, the quiet, mysterious assistant who always seems to be hanging around. Yeah, he's there in almost every key moment, and yet somehow, we never put it together until the end. That's the magic trick again. Show us something simple, distract us with spectacle, and we never see the truth. Another standout sequence is when Angier finally travels to America and meets Nikola Tesla, played by none other than David Bowie. Yes, Bowie as Tesla. What a casting choice. And he's amazing in it. Tesla's workshop, the flickering lights, the mysterious coils. Those scenes have this eerie, almost otherworldly vibe. It's like we've stepped out of the gritty Victorian streets and into a realm of science fiction. And Tesla himself is such a fascinating figure. Brilliant, eccentric, misunderstood. And here's where Nolan blurs the lines between magic and science. Angier asks Tesla for a machine that can duplicate Borden's trick. And what does Tesla give him? A literal cloning machine. A machine that creates duplicates. And this is where the movie takes its boldest leap. Suddenly, we're not talking sleight of hand anymore. We're talking science that feels like magic. And Angier, of course, grabs it without hesitation, because to him, the bigger, the flashier, the more impossible, the better. And let me just say, when I first realized what that machine does, I was stunned. You're telling me Angier is creating copies of himself every single night and killing the original? That is dark, folks. That's obsession taken to the most horrifying extreme. And yet, he does it. He sacrifices himself over and over again, just for the applause. What a commentary on obsession, ego, and the price of art. Okay, I'm going to stop part 1 right here because otherwise I'll spoil the later revelations too early. But wow, we've already gone through so many of the jaw-dropping moments, the rivalries, the obsession, the clues hidden in plain sight. And we're just getting started. Because trust me, when we move forward, the stakes only get higher, the twists get crazier, and the ending, oh man, the ending, is one of the most unforgettable reveals in movie history. So stick with me, because we've got so much more to discuss. Why? Alright, so we've already gone deep into Angier's obsession, Borden's mystery, and Tesla's machine. But here's where the story really starts cranking up the intensity. Because from this point on, everything feels like a race. Both magicians pushing themselves further and further into madness, each trying to outdo the other. One of the most insane sequences comes when Angier brings Tesla's machine back to London and unveils his ultimate version of the transported man. And let me tell you, that performance is jaw-dropping. I still remember the first time I saw it. I had the same reaction the audience in the theater had. The lights flash, the stage is filled with electricity, and then suddenly, bam! Angier vanishes. And just as quickly, boom, he reappears in the balcony. The crowd goes absolutely wild. Goosebumps. And what I love about this scene is that Nolan shoots it in a way that puts us right in the shoes of the audience. We're not given any behind-the-scenes explanation yet. We're dazzled. We're as fooled as everyone else in the theater. And just like Angier wanted all along, the applause is deafening. But what we don't realize in that moment is the horrifying price he's paying to get it. Because every single night, one Angier lives and one Angier dies. Imagine standing there, knowing that the next time you step into that machine, you could be the version that drowns in a tank. That's terrifying. And here's the kicker. Angier doesn't even hesitate. He knows the cost, but he doesn't care. Because for him, it's not about living forever. It's about being remembered, being loved by the crowd, being the magician who pulled off the impossible. That's obsession, pure and simple. And honestly, it makes you wonder, would you do it? Would you literally gamble with your own life every night just for applause? I don't know about you, but for me, hard pass. Comment below. Would you ever step into that machine? Meanwhile, Borden is still doing his version of the transported man, the simple, clever, brilliant version. And the difference is so clear. Borden's trick is all about skill, craft, and dedication. Angier's trick is about spectacle and sacrifice, and that contrast is the whole movie. Two magicians, two philosophies, and both of them destroying themselves in the process. Now, let's talk about that moment where Borden sneaks backstage to investigate Angier's trick. Oh man, what a tense sequence. He follows Angier's performance, sneaks down beneath the stage, and what does he find? A water tank. Suddenly, the trick goes wrong. Angier falls in, trapped, drowning. Cutter and the stagehands rush in, smashing the glass, but it's too late. Angier is dead. Or is he? And here's where Nolan pulls off one of his boldest moves. Borden gets arrested for Angier's death. Think about it. Our main character is suddenly on trial for murder. The stakes skyrocket. The courtroom scenes are brutal because you know Borden's secret is dangling right there in plain sight. The prosecutor brings up Fallon, the mysterious assistant, and you're sitting there screaming, "It's obvious, Fallon is the secret." But of course, the jury, the lawyers, nobody sees it. And then we get to the prison scenes. Honestly, these are some of Christian Bale's best moments in the film. Borden, beaten down, hopeless, trying to maintain his dignity as the walls close in. His daughter comes to visit, and that moment absolutely wrecks me. The way he tries to smile for her, even as he's shackled, even as he knows he might never see her again. That's gut-wrenching. Bale nails the emotion there. It's not just about magic anymore. It's about a father and his child, about legacy, about what you leave behind, But Nolan doesn't let up, because while Borden is rotting in prison, Angier, alive and well, shows up again under the alias Lord Caldlow. The reveal that Angier faked his death, set Borden up, and is now walking free as a wealthy gentleman, it's infuriating. I remember shouting at the screen, "You've got to be kidding me!" The arrogance, the smugness on Jackman's face in those scenes, man, he plays it perfectly. You hate him, but you can't stop watching. And let's not forget the emotional devastation that comes earlier with Sarah, Borden's wife. Her death is one of the most haunting moments in the film. When she hangs herself, it's not just tragic, it's inevitable. She's been living in confusion, in half-truths, in a marriage where some days her husband loves her and some days he doesn't. And that line she says before, it still hits me every time. Some days you mean it, some days you don't. That's the whole truth of Borden's secret right there. Watching her break under that weight is just heartbreaking. And Olivia, played by Scarlett Johansson, also adds fuel to this fire. She bounces between Angier and Borden, caught in their rivalry, used as a pawn, and eventually realizes just how destructive both men are. There's this great scene where she confronts Borden, saying she can't live with his divided self, and you can see the frustration boiling over. Because Olivia, like Sarah, is trapped in this rivalry she didn't ask for, and both women are casualties of these men's obsession. That's one of the things I love about this movie. It's not just about tricks and magic. It's about the collateral damage obsession causes in relationships, in families, in love. And speaking of obsession, let's rewind a bit to Tesla and the machine. There's this great moment when Tesla warns Angier, "Don't use this." He literally tells him, "This machine will destroy you." But of course, Angier ignores him. Isn't that just the perfect metaphor for human obsession? We're warned, we know the danger, but if it promises us greatness, we can't help ourselves. And honestly, Tesla himself is kind of a mirror for these magicians. He was a man obsessed with his inventions, misunderstood by society, and ultimately consumed by his ambitions. Bowie plays him with this quiet intensity that makes him unforgettable, even in his short screen time. One thing I absolutely love about The Prestige is how Nolan constantly plays tricks on us, the audience. He tells us in the beginning, watch closely, and still we miss it. Fallon is there the whole time. Borden's moods make sense if you know the truth. The little details like the missing fingers, the shifting accents. It's all explained once you realize there are two Bordens. But Nolan distracts us with Flash, with Angier's machine, with drowning tanks, with rivalry. We're looking at the wrong hand the whole time, just like in a magic trick. And let's talk about Cutter again for a second, because Michael Caine is so good here. He's the one person in the film who consistently sees the truth. He knows Borden is using a double. He warns Angier about going too far. He sees the human cost when Julia dies, when Sarah dies, when Borden's daughter is left fatherless. Cutter is the moral anchor, the man who understands magic, but also understands people. And that final scene with him, oh, we'll get there in part 4, it's one of my favorites in the entire movie. But right now, in this middle section, we're at the height of the madness. Borden is imprisoned, facing execution. Angier is living his dream life, but at what cost? Every night he kills himself. Every night he watches his own death in that tank. And honestly, that's one of the darkest ideas I've ever seen in a movie. Imagine the psychological toll of knowing that every night, one version of you drowns while the other version walks away to applause. That's nightmare fuel. And it makes you wonder, was Angier's trick really better than Borden's? Was it really worth it? Because Borden sacrificed a normal life, yes, but he and his brother built something extraordinary through sheer discipline. Angier, on the other hand, took a shortcut that destroyed him from the inside out. It's such a fascinating commentary on art, obsession, and the cost of greatness. Alright, I'll pause here for part 2 because we're now set up perfectly for the final act of the film, where everything unravels, secrets are revealed, and that legendary ending blows our minds. Oh man, the ending. That's what we're building toward, and trust me, it deserves all the attention in the world. So here we are, the final stretch of the Prestige. This is the point in the film where all the pieces finally start clicking together. The rivalries have reached their boiling point. The secrets are right on the edge of being exposed, and every little clue Nolan dropped throughout the film is about to pay off in the most mind-blowing way. Let's pick back up with Borden, sitting in prison. Man, these scenes are so heavy. Every time I watch them, I feel the weight pressing down on him. He's about to be executed, separated from his daughter, and accused of a crime he didn't commit, at least not in the way everyone thinks. The whole time, you can see Bale playing him with this quiet intensity, like he's carrying a truth he can't share. It's heartbreaking, because you know he's innocent of Angier's murder, but he's guilty of something else entirely, the deception of living two lives. And then comes the visit from Lord Caldlow, Angier, alive, smug, relishing in his victory. Oh man, this scene always gets me fired up. Angier struts in, reveals himself to Borden, and basically gloats about everything. He's got Borden's daughter, he's destroyed his rival, and he's on top of the world. Hugh Jackman plays it with this cold arrogance that makes you want to throw something at the screen. He's so cruel, so gleeful in his triumph. It's the ultimate villain monologue moment. But here's the thing. You can also see the cracks. Because while Angier is winning on the surface, there's this emptiness behind his eyes. He's sacrificed so much, his wife, his sanity, his soul. And what does he really have? A title, some applause, and a life built on killing himself every night. It's such a haunting irony. He's won the rivalry, but lost everything else. Meanwhile, Cutter starts to realize the horrifying truth about Angier's trick. And let me tell you, that moment when he sees the rows of water tanks, each one containing a dead Angier clone, holy hell. That is one of the most chilling images in the entire movie. Dozens of bodies, identical, lifeless, stacked like trophies of obsession. That's when it really hits you. Angier has been dying every single night. I don't care how many times I rewatch that reveal, it always gives me goosebumps. And let's not forget, this is Nolan playing the ultimate trick on us. Because he told us in the beginning, every magic trick has 3 acts: the pledge, the turn, and the prestige. And this is the prestige of the film itself. We finally see behind the curtain, and it's horrifying. But now, let's circle back to Borden. He goes to the gallows, calm and composed, and delivers that haunting line to his daughter. Are you watching closely? Oh, what a line. That's not just him speaking to his daughter. That's Nolan speaking directly to us, the audience. Were we watching closely? Did we see the truth about Borden? Most of us didn't. And that's what makes the reveal so satisfying. Because after Borden's execution, Fallon is left behind. And here comes the big twist. Fallon removes the disguise, and it's Borden's twin brother. Boom! That's the prestige of the film. Everything clicks into place. The alternating moods, the missing fingers, Sarah's despair, Olivia's frustration. It all makes sense now. There were 2 Bordens all along, living one life, sharing one identity, sacrificing half their lives for the perfect trick. And suddenly, the tragedy of it all hits you like a train. And let's talk about that sacrifice for a second, because it's so powerful. These 2 brothers gave up everything. Half a marriage, half a childhood with their daughter, half of themselves, just for the sake of their art. That's devotion. That's obsession. And it's heartbreaking. Because while one brother died on the gallows, the other gets to live, but only with half a life. The cost of their trick is enormous, and Nolan doesn't shy away from showing us that pain. Now comes one of my absolute favorite confrontations in cinema. Borden versus Angier in the theater, surrounded by those water tanks. Angier, wounded and dying, confronts Borden one last time. And the dialogue in this scene, oh man, it's legendary. Angier says, "You never understood why we did this. The audience knows the truth. The world is simple, miserable, solid all the way through. But if you could fool them, even for a second, then you can make them wonder. And then you get to see something very special. Wow. That line gets me every single time. Because in that moment, you understand him. You don't agree with him, you don't excuse him, but you understand him. His whole life was about that fleeting moment of wonder, and he was willing to destroy himself for it. And then Borden delivers the counterpunch. You went too far, Robert. That's the difference between us. You never understood sacrifice. That line cuts deep. Because Borden did sacrifice. Half his life, his marriage, his happiness. But Angier? He didn't sacrifice for love or family. He sacrificed for applause. And that's the tragedy of his character. And can we just take a moment to appreciate how perfectly Nolan closes the loop? The opening line, "Are you watching closely?" comes back in the end. The structure of the film mirrors the structure of a magic trick. The audience is fooled, then dazzled, then finally shown the truth. It's genius, pure genius. And I'll be honest, every time I finish this movie, I sit there in silence for a few minutes, just processing. It's that powerful. The themes of obsession, sacrifice, rivalry, and the blurred line between magic and science, they stick with you. And the ending? Well, that's exactly why we're here, right? To talk about how Nolan pulled off one of the greatest endings in cinema. All right, so now that we've walked through all the twists, the rivalries, the sacrifices, and the gut punches, let's focus squarely on that ending. Because honestly, The Prestige has one of the most perfect mind-bending endings in cinema history. The last stretch of the movie leaves us with two images burned into our brains. Angier's lifeless body among the rows of water tanks, and Borden reuniting with his daughter. On the surface, it feels like justice. Angier dies from his own obsession, and Borden, despite losing so much, finally gets a chance at a new beginning. But Nolan never makes it that simple, does he? He wants us to sit in the unease, the tragedy, the moral gray areas. Let's break this down. Angier's end is poetic. He spent his life trying to outdo Borden, to achieve the impossible, and he succeeded, but at a horrifying price. Every night, he created a copy of himself, and every night, one of him drowned in agony. That's the ultimate metaphor for obsession, right? The idea that to achieve greatness, you kill a part of yourself over and over until there's nothing left. Angier becomes a literal ghost of himself, a man who wins applause but loses his soul. And this is where the film's title really hits you. The Prestige. It's not just about the trick. It's about the cost of the trick, the final reveal, the price paid to dazzle the audience. And Nolan doesn't just tell us that. He makes us feel it. He makes us complicit in it. Because we, as the audience, wanted the spectacle. We wanted to know the secret. And when we get it, it's devastating. Christian Bale, of course, is phenomenal as Alfred Borden. And let's not forget, he's essentially playing two roles the entire film, the twins. And he does it so subtly, so perfectly, that you never notice until the reveal. One twin is more fiery, passionate, impulsive. The other is calmer, more thoughtful, more reserved. Watch closely and you'll see it. Different mannerisms, different tones, different reactions. Bale doesn't just trick the audience, he embodies the trick. That's masterful acting. Now, we've got to talk about VFX, because while The Prestige isn't a CGI spectacle like Inception or Interstellar, the visual effects here are subtle and brilliant. The Tesla machine sequences, the arcs of electricity, the duplication effect, the lighting, it's all done in a way that feels real, grounded, almost practical. And that's key. Because the whole point of the movie is that the extraordinary is hidden inside the ordinary. The effects never feel like movie magic. They feel like something that could exist in that world, and that makes it all the more haunting. And honestly, it's one of those movies that sticks with you long after the credits roll. You start asking yourself questions. Was it worth it? Who really won? What's the cost of obsession? And most importantly, are we any different from the audience in the movie, applauding as these men destroy themselves for our wonder? That's what makes it brilliant. So, my final thoughts? The Prestige is a masterpiece, a haunting, mesmerizing story about magic, rivalry, and sacrifice. Nolan at his sharpest, his most deceptive, his most daring. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share this video with your fellow movie fans, and of course, subscribe to Hollywood Latest News for more deep dives into cinema's greatest films. And if you really want to show some love, hit that super thanks. It goes up to $20, and it helps me keep making these epic breakdowns for you guys. All right, folks, that's it from me, Luke Harrison. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me through this magic trick of a movie, and as always, watch closely, because the next video might just surprise you too.